Southeast Asia has seen an impressive transformation during the last part of the 20th century and now well into the 21st. Even more, its aviation scene has been booming, with the budget airlines making their mark and disrupting the industry. This could be seen with Malaysia, home to where the budget airline group AirAsia began. In recent years, its main hub at Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia's capital, has been a key part of its success. Though prior to the growth of the budget airline group, Kuala Lumpur has played a vital role in the growth of aviation in Southeast Asia. Those aviation activities are centered at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, and its evolution to become a major hub for Malaysia and the region will be the subject of this video. The evolution and history of the Kuala Lumpur Airport has spanned decades, leading to the airport's current form in Sepang. Before the city had an airport, the first airplane flight took place during the time when Malaysia was known as Malaya, British territory. That first flight was recorded in 1911 when G.P. Fuller made the first recorded landing in Malaya and landed his Antoinette monoplane at a racecourse in Jalan Ampang in Kuala Lumpur. There was no airport in the city or Malaya overall. It wouldn't be until the late 1920s that the first two airports were to be built in Malaya, which would be located in Alor Setar and Taiping. So then we get to Kuala Lumpur, where the first airport for the city would be opened in the 1930s at Sungai Besi. While primarily a military airbase for the British Royal Air Force, the airfield would usher in commercial air services from the likes of the Warren's Air Service, which operated flights between Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, and Penang. Warren's Air Services was also joined by Imperial Airways and Malayan Airways, a predecessor to both Singapore Airlines and Malaysia Airlines. Along with Sungai Besi, there was another airfield southwest of Kuala Lumpur at Port Swettenham, which is now known as Port Klang, and the largest seaport for the country. This would lead to World War II, and like many of its Asian counterparts, the area would go through years of Japanese occupation. Following the war and the rebuilding process, work to develop the aviation industry in the area continued. It was also a period of transition from British colonial rule to become an independent country. For the aviation industry, one of the centers of change was at Sungai Besi, which would see work to improve the airside facilities. So with that, in 1952, Sungai Besi got the title of Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Upon gaining independence from the British and the formation of the Federation of Malaya, the Kuala Lumpur International Airport at Sungai Besi would also play host to the first Royal Malaysian Air Force Base. It would be the first true international airport hub for the city of Kuala Lumpur for more than a decade, until the new airfield in Subang was built and opened in 1965. Located west of the city center of Kuala Lumpur, the initial construction at Subang for the new international airport was started in 1961 before the opening in 1965. With its opening, it would take the mantle of Kuala Lumpur International Airport from Sungai Besi. Among the highlights of the new international airport was a runway of 3.7 kilometers or around 12,000 feet, making it the longest runway in Southeast Asia. And the airport saw the growth of aviation in Malaysia, especially with Malaysia Airlines. One aspect that played a significant role in the airport development is the relationship between Malaysia and Singapore, and for a time that Singapore was part of the Federation of Malaya between 1963 and 1965. Before, during, and even now, there has always been a relationship between Malaysia and Singapore. The airline did operate well after the split between Malaysia and Singapore until 1972 when the operations were split, leading to the formation of both Singapore and Malaysia Airlines. Despite the split in politics and the airlines, one of the three terminals that would be built at Subang was dedicated for flights between Singapore and Malaysia. The airport in Subang would hold the longest tenure as the main hub for the city of Kuala Lumpur between 1965 and 1998, a time spanning 33 years. Leading to that point, the airport was already at the point of serving nearly 16 million passengers annually in 1997, and plans were being made for a future airport, realizing that the one runway facility would not meet the future demands of the country's aviation industry. The 1990s were a period of transition in Asia, especially within the aviation industry in the region. For Kuala Lumpur, it would see the rise of a large air hub with multiple runways with modern facilities fit for the 21st century. This new international airport would be built 45 kilometers south of the city and would take up 100 square kilometers of agricultural land in an area known as Sepang in Selangor district just outside of the Kuala Lumpur Federal Territory. The new Kuala Lumpur Airport in Sepang would be built over in phases. For the initial stage, the airport would have 2 runways and at its centerpiece a 336 square meter passenger terminal, with a design capacity to handle around 25 to 35 million passengers annually. The airport at Sepang, which is now the current location of the Kuala Lumpur Airport, was opened in 1998, becoming the 3rd airport to take on the mantle of Kuala Lumpur International Airport. While it was an exciting time for Malaysia's aviation industry, it was also a rough time for the region overall as the Asian financial crisis hit in the late 1990s and dampened the economy in the region. Following the rough start in the late 1990s, the 2000s was when really things picked up for Kuala Lumpur International Airport. This period would mark the rise of budget airlines as we know them today, and the Kuala Lumpur International Airport would be a major hub for the growth of the budget airlines in the region. With Malaysia-based AirAsia Group beginning its growth from the area, one of the first major developments and innovations the airport did make was the creation of the low-cost carrier terminal in 2006. It was the first venture of any airport to build a budget terminal with no air bridges and limited amenities, though it would eventually be closed in 2014 for a much bigger successor. The airport's low-cost carrier terminal would serve as a blueprint for other airports in building their terminals dedicated for budget airline operations. Another development that the airport took part in the mid to late 2000s was the accommodations for the Airbus A380 Super Jumbos, which Malaysia Airlines was among the major airlines that ordered the aircraft. To accommodate the Super Jumbos, the Kuala Lumpur International Airport made upgrades to accommodate the large jets, including widening taxiways and building dedicated gates for the aircraft. With the upgrades, it is the only airport in Malaysia that can accommodate the A380s. The third major development in the last 2 decades is actually the successor of the low-cost carrier terminal. The new facility to replace the budget airline terminal in 2014 is KLIA 2, a new home for budget airlines and one of the biggest budget airline terminals in the world. It is the main facility for AirAsia along with other budget airlines that currently serve Kuala Lumpur International Airport. And when it was opened in 2014, a 3rd runway for the whole airport was built along with it. The Kuala Lumpur International Airport is a centerpiece of Malaysia Airports Berhad, the state-run airport operator overseeing the operations of 39 airports in the country. In 2019, it recorded a record 62.3 million passengers served that year, and is a primary hub for Malaysia Airlines, the national airline of the country, along with the AirAsia Group and the Indonesian-based Lion Air Group's Malindo Air. The city and the airport is an integral piece of the transportation links between the cities in Southeast Asia, especially to Singapore and Jakarta in Indonesia, which flights to those cities are among some of the busiest in the world. In 2019, aviation research group OAG noted the Kuala Lumpur to Singapore route was the 2nd busiest airline route in the world. In addition, the airport also serves the 10th busiest route between Jakarta and Kuala Lumpur. While the current airport in Sepang holds the title as Kuala Lumpur International Airport, it is more of a title that represents the importance of the airport to the city and the region. That said, for those of you who are curious as to the current fate of the other 2 airports, I will go through them briefly. Following the opening of the Subang airport, the Sungai Besi airfield remained a military base and also served as a home for general aviation. Most recent reports have stated that the property has seen the military operations shifted to other airfields, though it is a home for the Royal Selangor Flying Club. Of the 3 airports to hold the title of Kuala Lumpur International Airport, Sungai Besi is the only one of the 3 that is located within the federal territory of Kuala Lumpur. Interestingly enough, the Subang airport continues to remain operational for limited turboprop operations. It is a secondary airport for the city of Kuala Lumpur, serving limited domestic flights by Firefly, Malindo Air, and Berjaya Air. Within recent years, the Subang airport was renamed the Sultan Abdul Aziz Shah Airport. The current Kuala Lumpur International Airport has been built to meet the current demands for the air travel demands of Kuala Lumpur. It will also do so for the foreseeable future. Among its biggest contributions to aviation, especially in Malaysia, has been hosting the growth of the AirAsia Group. Along with hosting the operations of the Malaysia-based operations of AirAsia, it has also helped lead the transformation of the Kuala Lumpur International Airport for the modern times. In terms of prestige, its counterpart in Singapore, the Changi Airport, often takes the title of being a favorite airport amongst travelers. Having said that, that doesn't diminish the role of the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, especially being a premier hub of the region. It is one part of the busy air links between the three cities of Singapore, Jakarta, and Kuala Lumpur in Southeast Asia. I definitely hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. This has been Flights in Asia, highlighting the news and updates from the aviation and travel scene in the Asia Pacific. Thank you for watching and have a great day.